Gilbert George, when you showed at the British Pavilion in Venice in 2005, I asked you if you were a member of the establishment, and you said maybe until the pavilion closes. Then I tried when you were showing at Tate Modern, and you said maybe for the duration of the exhibition. Now you've joined the Royal Academy. I'm going to have a third crack to open this talk. So you've joined the Royal Academy. Does it mean that finally you've become part of the British art establishment?
What do you think?
It feels like now or never, don't you think?
How old was the youngest member of the Royal Academy?
You mean now?
In the history of the Royal Academy?
Well, very good question. I mean, associates joined. Turner joined when he was barely still a teenager as an associate member.
Maybe we didn't do the right art for a long time, for the Royal Academy.
But you think you're doing the right art now to be members of the Royal Academy?
I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's very good.
Good. Well, we'll come on to your fuckology later on and see how that fits with the Royal Academy. I also noticed, in fact, I ought to give credit to Stephen Snoddy, who's a friend of yours and a curator who's supported your work for a long time now, who's director of the Art Gallery in Walsall. Stephen pointed out that it's the 50th anniversary this autumn of the two of you meeting at St Martin's School of Art back in 1967. How did that meeting come about? What was the first time you clapped eyes on each other?
All those years.
I mean, George was already there. No? He was already the super student at that time. No? And I managed to squeeze myself into the St. Martin's School of Art. And it was extraordinary. They accepted me without, qualification or nothing.
Philip King, in fact, was very helpful for you, wasn't
Philip King. I always have to thank Philip King because he is the man who said yes.
And in my case, it was a young man called Valdemar Dore, who was doing a once-a-month teaching in Oxford School of Art, where I was. And I used to hitchhike down to London to walk around once a month because I was very bored with Oxford. And I was walking the Charing Cross Road, probably for bookshops, and I bumped into Valdemar Dore, and he said, "Why didn't you come and see the college I went to, St Martin's?" I said, "Where is that?" He said, "It's here." And he pointed, we were in front of it. And he took me up in the lift to what we now know was the Advanced Sculpture course, run by Frank Martin. And we spoke for 5 minutes with Frank Martin. And on the lift coming down, he said, "So that's it, you're on the course."
It's a little more complex getting into the Royal Academy schools now, but maybe that's a sad thing. I suppose on one level, if I listed for the younger members of the audience briefly the kind of artists, the artists who were at St Martin's at the time, people like Anthony Caro, Philip King teaching there, William Tucker, but Bruce MacLean, Barry Flanagan, you, of course, Richard Long, Hamish Fulton, John Hilliard, and so on. I mean, that's a strong roster of British artists at the time. I don't know whether St Martin's is certainly not forgotten, but perhaps it's not as mythologized now as it was, and maybe it's right to be revived again. But what was the energy there in the 1960s? What made it so great?
I mean, you've only mentioned the ones that made it.
Yes.
There were lots of other ones. But the exciting thing was that we felt that we were part of an amazing elite group, that it was a center of the universe of modern sculpture. There were frequent visitors with television crews from Venezuela and places filming this famous department. We were very often parts of features in the then famous color supplement and things. Yeah? And we felt very grand and
even
special.
I think it was very exciting because you felt for the first time anything could be art. And that's quite unusual. Before it has to be sculpture, painting, bronze, But from 67 onward, when we were there, anything could be art, and it became true even.
It was extraordinary. We didn't realize until, I think it was about a year or two after leaving St Martin's, that there was a painting department. we were so big-headed, we thought where we were was St Martin's. Yeah?
Did it feel totally liberating, or did it feel something that you had to try and kick against or push? You know, the idea you go to art school where anything's possible. For some people, it's like kicking at an open door. Others, it's like walking into another world. What was it like for you? Did you feel the need to rebel? How could you rebel?
No, we didn't feel the need to rebel. Later, when we left St. Martin,
that's
a different story.
On leaving.
Yeah, that's quite a different story.
That moment of leaving.
The rejection from the school.
Okay, I'm not going to go through your entire career year by year, but I still want to just nail a couple of things about St Martin's. What work did you make at St Martin's? What were the earliest pieces you made together?
We made sculptures. I think together was a mask.
A mask, yes, and we did a small exhibition that was in not Gleave Place, but
Silver
Place, where we hired a cafe in the afternoon, and we had 2 tables, and George had 3 sculptures, and I had 3 sculptures on the tables, and all the students were offered tea and sandwiches.
We wanted to take it away from St Martin's for the idea that they had things called crits, where a group of students with a tutor or two would wander around and nag some nonsense about each sculpture as they passed it, yeah? And it was always to do with form. Never mentioned anything to do with meaning. Nothing. Only to do with shape, the angle, the curve. We thought we were living in the center of this extraordinary city, and Soho, and the police cars, and the prostitutes, and the bars, and all the bookshops, the most exciting place in the world. And they were still talking about the weight of the angle. Yeah. So that gave us the idea that we wanted to have an art which was emotional, that could deal with life and death and hope and fear and friendship and the value of people. Not that it was so elitist that excluded 99% of the world's population.
Yes, but the Enlightenment came the day that we realized that we didn't need an object to be art. Before we were holding a sculpture like a stick or a square in the hands, and one day we realized we don't need that. We are the living sculptors. That was a revolution for us. That still is. That's it.
It's something that came over us, and then we realized that we didn't have to design our art, that we were able to be part of creating the art, that it was us speaking through the form. It was the form serving the meaning.
Was this something that it suddenly struck you in an almost flash of light, or was it something that you discussed and came to realize over a period of days, weeks, months?
It's all accidents. We only believe in accidents. That's it.
We were always against discussion. One of our early rules was never discuss. Yes, we'd seen enough of that at St Martin's. Yeah.
And another rule that you have is never argue, and it's always a question thrown at you, but I have to try. Do you still never argue?
We always say that's the great heterosexual question.
So that's a no then. Do you still see yourselves now, here, in this room, as living sculptures?
Yes. That has never changed. Our art, we are the vision. We are the sculptors walking through life, to the end. That's what we do. It is like a pilgrim's progress that you walk through life, and you are confronted by all this, what you call everyday life, and that's what we speak about, and that's our art. That's what we chuck our painting on the wall from the inside of us on the walls.
And it's not that we feel it; it's that people feel it. We know from our fan mail, from young people, children, from old people even, that people see us as some kind of friend that they've never met, that they can consult and think about or feel about. That's quite amazing, the actual response from people, from all walks of life and from different angles.
It's human art, that's what it is, all based on human person in this world.
That's why we love it.
That's the sculptor, the human person in the world.
That's why we love it when a huge truck full of steel girders screeches to a halt on Commercial Street, and a middle-aged driver from Burnley puts his head out and says, "Gilbert George, my life's a fucking moment. Your art's an eternity."
I have to say that's the funniest Burnley accent I've ever heard. But I can actually, just walking down the street with you, there is certainly people stop and talk to you, or there's recognition. Yeah. When did that start? When did people start? I'm not asking you the trite question, when did you become celebrities? I'm asking you the question, when did people start to realize that the two of you were these, living sculptors, they knew who Gilbert and George were. When did people start to engage with you publicly?
I think it probably was in 1969 in the big, what they call the rock concert in Hyde Park. When we did the living sculpture walking around the park, they all came up to us and asked us about, eternal life or something like that.
Extraordinary questions, yeah. We didn't go for the pop concert. We didn't actually see it. We went there because we wanted an audience. We wanted to reach people. And we knew there would be thousands of young people there. And they all came up to us. It was extraordinary. They asked very embarrassing personal questions. It was the time of free love and everything. Yes? There were dozens of young people with, sitting in the grass with their knees up with kaftans, masturbating. Because it was free swinging London and free love. Extraordinary. I remember that.
It's actually the most graphic description of free love I've ever heard. The idea that you want to reach people, I mean, I think that's there. You want to communicate as directly as possible. So 50 years later, do you feel you reach a significant number of people? Do you feel you do communicate broadly with people? Or do you find that the world gets less and less comprehending of what you're doing?
I think we have an amazing audience out there. And not that we have pictures in the galleries, but in general, I don't know where, as this, the living sculpture, idea they have in their mind. Every time we walk to dinner, they all come up to us all the time. And that's quite exciting in some way, because it feels that art is working. It feels you are part of ordinary life.
It's not because they go to galleries or because they have catalogues in their house. I don't know why the message or the meaning seems to find its way through to people, yeah? We're rather impressed by that.
Maybe because it's so simple.
And complex.
At the same time.
You are the embodiment of your art. You are your art. Is there an element of portraiture? The fact that there's always an image of the two of you in various guises in all of your pictures, for example, as well as you being the embodiment of living sculpture. Is that an element of self-portraiture?
Never thought of that.
No.
Not once.
We see as people think it's to do with us. We think it's more to do with the viewer, because from what people say when they stop us on the street, or letters that we get, it's obviously we're talking to people about them and their lives through seeing our art. Yeah? No, we don't see it as portraiture in that way.
You have, I mean, almost from the beginning, but certainly it evolved very strongly by the mid-70s, that you worked in series, that there was a body of work that you created, and then you'd move on to the next, and that's remained so. How does that creative process come about? Have you got, as you sit here now, are there 4 or 5 series gestating, bubbling under that you know you're going to work on? Or do you work from one series, finish it to the next, finish it to the next?
No, I'm sure there are things that will happen in 4, 5, 6 years already there. At the moment, we're working on a huge group of the Beard pictures. And, I think we don't plan pictures. We don't go to the studio with ideas in our head. We try to go blank and dead-headed and zonked. And all of the pictures we did just come out from inside ourselves. We just lift them out, yeah? We can't go to the studio and say, what should we do today? Trees or pixies or monkeys or whatever. We wouldn't know what to do. Yeah? Just how we are in thought and feeling and experience that year is how the pictures will be.
We have to, because we always have to build up a bank of images before we do a new group of pictures. No? And the images, we are going down and taking photographs of the subjects that speak to us at that time. And that changes from year to year. What is speaking today to us? That's what we take images of it. So we are building up like a big, bank of images, like maybe 10 or 20,000 to choose from for when we start to design the picture. That's the second part of the doing of a picture, the designing. And that's the most creative part, is when we are designing pictures. We are going there, we don't know exactly what to do, but we are able to open these books and we see all the subjects. Like all the words are there to create the book.
But all of the images are only taken because we found the moral dimension in that subject. We would never take something because we like it or don't like it or fancy it or think it's nice looking. It has to speak to us in the same way that it will speak to a person. Like you could say, we have in some of the new Beard pictures, we have burglar alarms, yeah? We all walk through London past hundreds and hundreds of burglar alarms every day. You can look at them or not look at them. But we began to see that the burglar alarms had an extraordinary meaning, that if you look at them, you realize that most of them are not working. And they've been there for, some have been there for 80, 90 or more years. And the burglar alarm is there, and the Second World War comes and goes, and it's still there. And the man murders his wife on the second floor, and the alarm's still there. And that's the moral dimension of the other silent witnesses. Extraordinary.
Yes.
And they all mean something.
But
Nobody says anything about a burglar until you point a camera at one. Then they all come out and say, what are you up to? What are you up to?
And it's very exciting because when we do the designs are all done 10% of the actual artwork, no? 10%. And we are going into a black room to do it. We always do that because now we are doing it all with the computers ourselves. No? And that's the most exciting way of, this is very exciting because we are able to, to speak very fast in and out what we want, no? Experiment in and out and that very fast. For doing the designs. It's extraordinarily good because you are totally open, near your brain you are. You're not up ladders or anything to do or panicking, even because we already have the subjects there. We don't have to think of subjects. They are already in our books outside in the second room.
It's the experience of creating. So it's the only way we can describe it. It's similar to when you are romantically or sexually attracted to another person. Everything around you feels better and different and higher. You know, the garden looks different. The weather seems better. It's like another level. It's like exalted, really. Yeah.
We never lost the excitement. That's extraordinary. After 50 years, we never lost that childish excitement to do new pictures.
Was it the same kind of thrill pre-computer? I mean, I'd like to talk about that.
Yes, of course, yes.
Because now you can produce every aspect of production yourselves on computer, whereas before you were laying the photograph.
No, it's exactly the same from that point of view.
Yeah.
So even the languages then we're making, we have subjects, we have layers, we have colors. Yeah.
It feels like designed for us because we invented it for ourselves. And that's quite good as well because we invented a form to make artworks for ourselves. No? It's not taken from what they call having big brush in the hand or stuff like that. Nothing like that. It's all a new way of making pictures.
I haven't seen the Beard picture, so and nor will any of the audience. So I'm asking questions on behalf of them, without any visual idea or imagery. Which is it? So the moral dimension of pictures, which I do want to explore in a little more detail later. I mean, I don't try to ask you the moral dimension of beards, but you've talked about the.
But they are.
Okay, well, but so where did the notion of the beard come from? I mean, I know they're all
cutting beards, no cutting beards, religious beards, hipsters' beards. They are extraordinary. The whole world through a beard.
And had you started taking photographs of people and then realised how many, or you suddenly realised, no, the beard is such a feature. I mean, you live near Hoxton, so there's different kinds of beards there. Then you live on Brick Lane, there's different kinds of beards there. So it was the subject matter that you then started to photograph.
No, it was all by accident.
We didn't actually photograph
we
beards.
didn't not one beard. It was in Christmas Day, George, 2 years ago, that we opened one of these books. Remember?
Yeah.
And what did we see?
You mean the leaf?
One leaf that looked like a beard, and that's it. That's how it started.
And then we realized, because it's always when we find it, then we find the truth about it. It's not the other way around. So then we realized that we spent the first half of our life in London surrounded by beards of tramps from Ireland and Scotland who'd come out of the army damaged or family troubles. All of the tramps had beards. There were thousands of people in 3 huge hostels around us.
And then you go to the end of our street, you see all the mullahs, all beards.
You have to have a beard.
And
then we went through the time of the Jewish community. They all had these big beards.
You're not allowed to cut.
I remember as a child that people wouldn't get a job in my hometown if you had a beard. You could have a beard if you were in the Navy, but not if you were in the army.
What about the 19th century books about the beard? They're quite interesting.
Yes, then we found a new book called Heyday, I think it's called. It's about the time we're living through now with modern technology and communications and the internet and social media, and how that's similar to the middle of the 19th century when people were laying cables under the oceans and the steamships suddenly became very fast and everything became very modern. And the way to be modern in the 1850s was to have a beard. You had to have a beard. If not, you were some lounge lizard. The Queen made her son have a beard. Dickens thought he should update himself with a beard. Because people who went around the world starting sheep farms or starting a gold rush would be bearded, yes? Lumberjacks. The modern thrusting world was bearded.
I've never
For
seen.
us, it's too late. But yes.
I've never seen either of you with beards. Is that
Certainly not. What do you think of it?
Which obviously brings me on to your immaculate appearance. People still love to ask you questions about that. It is. I mean, people have described your tailoring as singular. It's very much you, your style. It's rooted in where you live. What has led you to adopt the dress code that you have for so long? Where did it come from?
Remove ourselves from ordinary people.
And the artists.
And the artists, in a big way.
So no artist ever was booted and suited.
But now they all are. All the artists have suits on now. And not this kind of suit. They have more posh suits, but they all have suits now. That stopped. For a long time, they all made fun of our suits. That's finished now because everybody, I don't know, modern life is suited.
It's quite strange. The press always say besuited Gilbert George. They never say besuited Prime Minister. Never. Yeah. Extraordinary. Besuited Archbishop. Never. Yeah.
Befrocked, I think that would be it.
Defrocked, someone. No, we always said that from the earliest days. I was very inspired by Van Gogh because I read his letters. I bought a second-hand copy of his letters. And Gilbert was inspired by Michelangelo.
Yes, because after all, he was Italian, yes.
But we wanted to be, we realized that Van Gogh got through against all of the odds. He didn't train in the right place, he didn't behave in any way right, but he won. So much that even now, as we speak, somewhere in the world, someone is gazing at a Van Gogh painting and having amazing feelings about those gnarled trees and his life and meaning. But whilst we liked all of that, we didn't want to be the traditional artist, with the paint splash all over and the sandals and the beard. Yeah, we said we don't want to be the artist mother wouldn't be ashamed of. Yeah, didn't work out exactly like that, but.
But I think the revolution came the moment that we left St. Martin's School of Art, because then that's when we realized that we wanted to be different from other artists, and even they realized that we were rejected because the formal, what we were doing didn't fit into the system. So we were walking around London alone, and that's how we discovered that we wanted to be artists without a studio, without anything. And then we started to be able to send out these, especially these postal sculptures, to our audience, and that became very successful. They all loved this personal touch from us.
So that, in a sense, I wouldn't put it quite so crudely as, the old avant-garde idea of standing in opposition to norms, but there's an element of that. But
yes, never left us.
So even now, you adopt, let's choose my words carefully, your political position, party political during the election, you've been quoted in the papers today, your position on Brexit as well, for example, tends to be not that which the broad liberal art world adopts. Is that still part of the same strategy, or is that something heartfelt?
It's not a strategy. We just think we're normal, yeah? And they're all weird. Roughly, yeah, we do. Yeah. Most people vote Conservative, right? That's the general trend.
42%, I think.
But enough. No, I mean, we never wanted to be, we all like this idea to be completely normal, boring, old-fashioned, and at the same time, radical. Outsiders, who are able to say whatever we want. We are not part of the group, so we are free. And we always try to be free. That's why we never wanted to be friends with other artists, because we want to be free.
That's why politically it's very simple. We believe that in general, the Conservative Party is for the individual, generally speaking. And generally speaking, the Labour Party is collective. And it always will be. Yeah? And we as artists, obviously, are for the individual.
Freedom of the individual.
For the creative person, yeah.
You talk about the being self-contained, I suppose, would be one way of putting it. The fact there's two people, one artist, in a sense that enables your self-containment to have, I mean, you're mutually supportive. You become one entity in that regard.
It's extraordinary stuff that we are able to do what we do. alone and one assistant. That is very important for us now, more and more. Don't you think, George?
The most important person we ever met.
Yui Gang.
We met in China all those years ago. He came back, and now he's our chief of staff. We call him the chief of staff because we only have one, so he's got to be the chief. He's also the best-looking artist assistant. Every year he comes out. Yui Gang, you must stand. A round of applause for Yui Gang, please.
Yeah.
He's also immaculately tailored, it ought to be said. You can see him at the end. The moral dimension you talked about. For you, art has to have a moral dimension. Just elaborate on that. What does that mean? It has responsibilities. It has a role to play. It needs to engage with more than just itself.
The way of living, I think, has to be, you know, like you have morals now. You have morals because we believe very much that morals can change. What is good and what is bad can change. And we are trying to change the morals. We know that the morals in 1969 were completely different than now. And that's what is part of art, to change the morals, you know, religious morals that we don't like, you know.
We know it's changing all the time anyway. London and the world is a totally different place from what it was when we left St. Martin's. And we like to think we were a small part of that change. It's going to change anyway, so why shouldn't we want to join in and be part of that?
I mean, behaviors, understanding how we are with your fellow person, no? That is a moral dimension for us.
What is a person? What is an individual? What is an English? What is a European? What is a person in general? It's changing all the time.
And that's the moral dimension that we're
fascinated by that.
And and one of the central planks or tenets of your moral code is freedom of expression, the ultimate freedom of expression. You're against bigotry and the constraint of freedom of expression, perhaps above all else.
Of course, yes. No, we believe in the power of culture. We believe that, you've talked about politics a moment ago, we believe that people vote, even in a free society, depending on what gramophone records their parents or grandparents did or did not listen to, what novels and what poetry their parents did or did not read. We don't vote with the bones and the flesh and the blood. We vote culturally. Yeah.
It's extraordinary how art became this, what you call
power, really.
This power that everybody wants to go there and have a look at show, to be free, even to entertain themselves. They want to know about what life is all about. They don't go to church. They go to arts, to concert, also to find out how they want to be in the world. I really believe that more and more. They're all going to shows to try to find meaning in life. I think that's what they try.
It's an enormous power. There was a radio phone-in program a few years ago, and people were asked what profession they would like to be in if they didn't have their present profession. And 67% of the people who phoned in wanted to be an artist rather than what they were. They obviously didn't realize what was involved, but the idea was, they liked the idea of
I mean,
art.
the freedom of an art is extraordinary if you are able to survive it all. It's fantastic. All the rest of life is quite boring.
The privilege that we can go down to the back of our house, through our little backyard, into the studio in the morning, and create a picture without having to refer to anyone, yeah? Government or nobody. We can say exactly what we want in that picture. And then the second privilege is to take it out into the world. We can take we're taking 24 pictures to Berlin, and then we're taking 24 of the scapegoating pictures to a church in Berlin. That's an enormous privilege of freedom that we can do that, yeah?
Yes, particularly for artists who said ban religion. I think that's marvellous.
Well, this is all part of the same thing, yeah.
But it's quite amazing that we are able, because we like showing. We don't like making art that is not seen. We want to have it shown. In the next year or two, maybe 15 shows we are setting up now.
There's different ways of measuring an artist's impact. They're all superficial in the way I'm about to quote them, but certainly the amount of bookshelves for catalogues, you are up there amongst the most exposed or of any contemporary art, certainly in my library. You've shown in extraordinary numbers of places over the last 30, 40 years, and particularly in the last 10, 15. Now, a lot of artists love the fact that art transcends national boundaries. It's kind of international, it's broad, it can speak universally as well as specifically. I'm not trying to catch you out, but I would say, no, but that's one of the reasons why a lot of artists were against Brexit, that they wanted Britain to remain culturally part of a larger entity.
But it is not large. It's only this club of Europe. It's not the world. The world is much bigger than what we call these 400,000 people.
Why should we be part of Europe when all the English London museums are full of European art? And the European cities don't have a lot of British art? Hardly any.
But do you identify as British artists? Is that still important to you?
No, we are international artists.
We don't see it as that, no. No, we're Brexit because, as Gilbert said, why should we join a gang? All within living memory were dictators. From Portugal to Spain. What was the man who ran Spain, the dictator?
Franco.
Franco. They only just put Franco on the school curriculum 2 years ago. Extraordinary, shocking. When we were baby artists, Greece was still being run by a bunch of generals.
But the whole idea of freedom of movement is not right, because it's only freedom of movement.
Selected
freedom of movement, this country in Europe only. Or if you are an American and want to come in here, it's very difficult. If you are Australian coming here, it's very difficult. Only why should the privilege of Europe be bigger than the ones in other places?
We say to our young Ramona friends, if you really would like to live in an EU country rather than a Brexited one, they say, yes, I want to be. We say, we are very lucky because there are 27 of them to choose from.
So you're international, or I think you've said before, we're modern artists, we're not British or European.
Global art, we want to be.
Global artists.
We want to be, we want them to know G&G with their own freedom that is global, not part of some club.
Are there specific instances you can give of different countries or different cultural reactions to your work? Or do you feel you tend to strike universal chords wherever you show?
I think
you have shown everywhere pretty well.
I think we do.
I think people see culture in that you can have Dickens or Shakespeare all over the world.
They all have love, hate, sex, religion, all these subjects.
John Constable, totally.
You grew up, George, in Devon, and Gilbert, you grew up in Italy, in the Ladino-speaking part, in the mountains. When you met in London at St Martin's, it was this great metropolis. You've lived together in London ever since. Are you ever tempted, as people do when they reach a certain point in their lives,
careful now,
maturity, we might say, to think about perhaps moving out of the country sometime?
We would never do that. Never.
Because?
Because the center of the world for us is East End of London. That's it.
Even city life is it, isn't it? We came both from the country, and it took us a long time to get into the idea of expressing ourselves as urban people. All of our first pictures were to do with the nature, even we were living in some wretched part of the East End of London, as they thought at that time. Yeah? And it was only really with the Dirty Wares pictures or some of the Red Mornings, we suddenly started to see that we were artists in the middle of the world, which is a city place. Yeah.
Would you like to give me an example of why you wouldn't live in the country, then?
I think only some years ago we'd forgotten about the country. The Dirty Wares pictures led us completely into rubbish on the street and tramps and everything. And then we forgot about the nature. And then we were invited to North Devon by our late friend Daniel Farson. And we went down to see him. We took the train. It was a very beautiful trip down into the country. And we stayed at the Liquor, and we woke up in the morning and walked up the high street of a small place called Appledore. And it was so beautiful. It was early in the morning. There was no traffic at all. There were birds swooping over this estuary there, silver. It was quite extraordinary. And everything was quaint and charming. We reached the top of the high street, and we thought we'd probably be wrong about the country. Maybe the country is very beautiful, and maybe it's a wonderful, ideal place to be. And there was the parish church, looking so wonderful. And in front of the church, there was a young couple with a pram, with a baby. They were probably 18 or 19. And it looked such a perfect end to this trip through the village. And we were charmed. We were almost in tears by the beauty of it. And we turned to the young couple and said, "Good morning. And the young man turned to us and said, "Fuck off, you weird-looking cunts." And then we remembered what the country was. I don't know why that's funny. I never worked it out.
I just think, given your contrary nature, that might have encouraged you to go and live in the country. I don't. So it's not just the city; it is that area around Brick Lane that you moved to in the late '60s, and again, that's become your home, your base. I've never asked you this. Why Fournier Street? Why that part of London? It could have been many other parts. What was it accidental that you had to go there?
I think it was cheap.
Place.
It was run by
Russian Jewish landlords, and you could rent a floor of any building for £16 a month. And the secret was that you could use it as a studio or live there. Because as a student at St Martin's, you could either have a bedsit where they wouldn't let you work. They didn't want the smell of paints or anything. Or you could have a little studio, but they didn't like you sleeping there. And so this was for poor people like ourselves. This was ideal, £16 for a floor. I lived first in Wilk Street, the top floor, and then it was extraordinary.
More was extraordinary. It felt like walking into a 19th century novel. The streets of East End of London. It's all dark, this yellow light in the evening, all mystic, all these drunks and all the stuff, all moving around. And it was like magic, totally magic. And it still is magic.
But in a different way.
In a different way. And we were the first one to restore a house in Fournier Street. First one even to buy it for living in. Because they were all factories. They were all button factories, fur coats factories, all the stuff. But we were the first one to take it back to what they were.
Are you secretly proud that many artists now live in that area?
Do they?
Well,
I don't know any.
Christopher Feely, Dinos Chapman, there's quite a few artists.
I thought they were all running away.
No, I think it's very simple. Being country bumpkins that we were, it was very glamorous to us, to live in these streets full of people staggering towards you on the street with the bottle saying, "Oh, hey, oh," every day. I'd never seen anything like that in my life before. And to have all the different strange cafes and shops and people speaking Yiddish, and it was amazing for us to have a church that was pigeons flying around in Christchurch, Spitalfields then.
And the Vicar Antias, can you imagine that? It was extraordinary. Everything that has to do with life was there. All the tramps, all the what they call the Jewish people,
the
then
prostitutes.
the Muslim people, the prostitutes, and
the Lascars. Nobody says there were Lascars.
And you felt what they call all life subjects were there. You didn't have to go anywhere.
It was very,
and
very
we still
exotic,
don't have to go anywhere because everything is there for inspiring us.
On your street, there was a Huguenot church. Then there's a change. Synagogue, mosque,
French church.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's the embodiment of cultural diversity or multiculturalism.
Yes.
Where does your antipathy with religion come? Is it its fundamental lack of tolerance?
Because it's always there on every corner. Don't you think? St. Iron Street, this street, all saints, all religion. And we more and more felt, even I was brought up a Catholic, and I realized they're all based on lies. Religions, they're all made up.
That's why we say we're probably Greco-Romano, Judeo-Christian, secularist Christians. If we want to be super honest, right?
We just bought a new book today based on the Christian, like Jesus and all. They were all...
Two new books, in fact.
Yes, they were all just magicians, all faking it to make people believe in him.
They were Egyptian hucksters, just doing tricks, cons, You can always pay a man to lie down and then come back from the dead. They were doing things like that. There were even paintings of Jesus with the magic wand waving,
And we are amazed.
The other book is on the burnings in Smithfield over here. I mean, the wickedness behind Christianity. I never heard that anyone apologized for it.
Even I remember, like, we were so appalled when a friend of ours died. I remember the vicar was saying that he's not dead.
Andrew liveth. Extraordinary thing to say.
So
Why didn't they open the box and get him out?
So what is your belief, what is your attitude to the spiritual life? I mean, does art have a spiritual component for you that is there? Is art a surrogate religion?
I think friendship of human beings is for us the religion.
That is spiritual, yeah.
That's it. There is nothing else. We
people
are alone here. No? We are alone in this world, and we have to be nice to each other. We have to find ways of living. That's what we feel.
The fabric of our world, yes. Us and the people and the animals and the trees and the floor that's made from those trees and the books that people write in the books that are made from those leaves. Well, it's an amazing, magic, extraordinary world that we live in this privileged way. Never before were so many people privileged. More people have traveled to more different countries in the world than ever before. The only people that traveled abroad when I was a child have been family members because they'd gone to war.
Do you have a sense of your own legacy? I mean, given that you emphatically said you don't believe in the afterlife, there will be obviously...
We didn't say that.
Okay. Then, do you believe in the afterlife?
No, we think the artist and the cultural person has an afterlife simply because they live on through they speak. Yeah?
Yes, and through their work. So
we're very conscious of that.
Yes, and I'm not giving away secrets. It's been reported in the press that you're setting up a foundation and a gallery. So you're thinking about, to a certain extent, the afterlife of your pictures and what happens.
Not only because of that, because we realize more and more artists, they are not able to show in public spaces, no? Like the Tate Modern will never show us. They have 22 artworks. They never show it for the last 10 years. Okay, they have a show, they manifest, twist their arm. But after that, they didn't show one bloody picture. And that's wrong. That's why we feel we have to do our own gallery, to show our own artwork.
I'm not going to be an apologist for Tate Modern, but you did show more pictures than any other artist.
No, but the last 10 years, we mean.
Okay. So you want to take more control. You think artists should, which is why you've joined the Royal Academy. It's an artist-run academy.
We want people who come to London to be able to see our work. That's it.
It's very simple. When we were baby artists, I used to hitchhike up from darkest Devon and then later from Oxford, and we always went to the Tate Gallery, and we saw an example of every living important artist was there. There was always the Bacon, there was always the John Piper, there was always the Hockney, there was always the Hamilton. Yeah, extraordinary. And you didn't have that now, and that's wrong.
So the Tate have got a new director. Do you have any advice for her?
Show art and not show art. That's it.
But you, from the beginning, were against the distinction, you did it very amusingly as well as powerfully, between Tate Britain and Tate Modern. Would you disband that now?
It will change one day anyway. Yeah? You cannot have two buildings when one's called Tate Modern and the other's not called Tate Old Fashioned. And you cannot have one called Tate Britain if the other one's not called Tate Foreign. Right?
Right. So that's the memo to Maria Balshaw. Very good.
They should divide it with chronology.
Yeah.
It's racist to do it, how they've done it. They've done it by passport, yeah? Just the same educated group of twits who were against apartheid are the ones who are doing it in the art now. That's quite shocking.
And we feel when people
the anti-racists are doing it.
Like you have all these tourists coming to London, they are not able to see very little English art. If you go to Tate Modern, you don't see anything. They all go to Tate Modern, they don't go to Tate Britain. And they're all artists that they see in their own countries.
Nobody stopped us on the street to say they'd just come from Tate Britain. Except one lady stopped us one day. And she said we had something up, and then it turned out that she was Nicholas Rota's sister.
I was trying to think, as you talked about the distinction between the two. A journalist today in the Times said if Gilbert and George were a country, they'd be Switzerland. I think they talked about your...
I don't get that.
No, well, as independence, spirit, industriousness, I think there was a whole raft of things.
But George have another idea.
Yeah, which country would you plead
If
guilty?
we were a country, we would be Thailand.
You've talked about the beard pictures, which will be at White Cube and other venues later this year.
173.
Yeah. Why? I mean, say from up to about 2005, Venice Biennale time, the Ginkgo pictures, about 23 pictures. suddenly, so you used to produce these series around 2025. Then suddenly, mad, 292 London pictures,
We
163
don't sleep
Beard
anymore.
pictures. Yeah, clearly not.
We don't sleep anymore.
What, apart from obviously the fact that the computer gave you the capacity to be able to produce works at every level of production, you were able to control it and work with it. Why has the series that you produce, why have they become so much larger, more
You don't
substantial?
ask why Picasso did 100 a day.
No, I don't ask
I
it
think we
critically.
do-
I
I
ask
think
it
we
curiously. I
don't.
suppose in his case, it was just a prolific creative spirit. It might be the same answer.
So I think we feel more creative and more able and more. We are more bursting with pictures that we will never be able to make than ever before. It's
Even
extraordinary.
because we are
It's not so much the computer either.
No, it's designing. We want to design until we are exhausted, finished. Because if you are able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, that's when you learn how you want it, no? If you do 2, that's nothing. You don't know how to make it. When you have a vision, you have to experiment that vision until you are totally exhausted, no? And that's why we are able to do that. Before we were not able to do that because physically it was more complicated, no? Now we are, physically we are able to do it, and we have Yui Gang who help us.
Art begets art. They actually, one by one, the pictures just come out of us.
We
wouldn't stop when the pictures are there, ready to come out. Yeah.
If you are able to do one after another, you are able to change. You are able to become different, and that's very important.
Does this
And
mean...
it's not only to do with computers, maybe partly to do, but not
No,
only.
it is to do with vision, but the vision is easier to catch now that we have what they call in front of the computer. Much easier.
But that
Instead of having
doesn't
a bit-
affect the research. The research is separate from that.
Oh, yes.
It's only when you come.
But it still
I mean,
doesn't...
there are romantic artists who think that the dark room and the chemicals and the silver lint, whatever, that photography is the real thing, yeah? But we don't miss that at all. People say, wouldn't you like to be back to that, the real technology? We say, the only thing we miss is the rubber gloves.
Oh.
But so there is a shift in your creative vision, I suppose.
But maybe because we're getting old, we are want to what they call faster.
Does art get, I'll use the word easier in inverted commas, do you find that the experience that you have makes the production of art or the production of pictures something that is less difficult than it used to be?
No, I think we have an enormous confidence and assuredness, and we have this great shared sense of purpose. We feel that we want to take these thoughts and feelings out.
We are not
into the world.
exhausted by art. We are very excited by doing it. That's what it is. It feels like being 17 or 18 years old. We are able to do it, and that's very exciting. We don't, I don't even know why, we know why we want to do it, because we want to be loved in the end. We always feel
loved.
we never had that.
And we love it when we show some young friends the designs for the beard pictures, and they're probably a quarter of our age, and they say, "You guys are crazy." It's an amazing compliment.
It is, yeah.
Extraordinary.
And it sounds like you still surprise yourself, because if these pictures are being
They are
produced and produced... I mean, I've been with you when you've seen work that you produced 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it seems it's like you're sometimes seeing it for the first time.
Oh, yes.
I
They're
mean,
all different.
The beard pictures are quite extraordinary pictures, I must say that.
It feels like the old man walking through life. That's what they look like, with the big beards, the whole history behind them. The what you call the history rucksacks, we call them.
History rucksacks. I'm going to throw you out to the floor in 1 minute. I've got one more question I want to ask you, which is another extraordinary departure. Your career seems to be a whole series of extraordinary departures, and that is opera, that you have an opera that's going to be performed soon in Amsterdam. What is it and how did it come about?
It's very exciting. It's a very simple story. That is, in the South London Gallery, we showed the naked ship pictures. And then we showed them in Amsterdam at the Stedelijk Museum. And the whole of Holland became completely crazed and excited by the pictures, and there was a certain amount of controversy. And abuse. The director of the Stedelijk, Rudy Fuchs, had excrement put through his letterbox. And the tobacconist that he went to every morning, served by an 81-year-old lady that he knew very well, would no longer sell him his cigars. And in general, everyone was very excited by the show as well. Yeah? And then we were rushed onto television to be interviewed by a young man called Theo van Gogh. He was the only living survivor of Vincent van Gogh. He was the grandson of the brother. And he was very famous at that time because he wouldn't dress up properly for television. He wouldn't wear a tie. He looked very disheveled. He was always a bit scruffy, overweight. But he was a national figure, very famous, the most famous person, not only because of his pedigree, of course. We did a big interview. Strangely, looking back, we talked a lot about religion and fundamentalism.
In 96.
And then you probably remember, some of you, if you look back, a few years after 1996, that young man was dragged from his bicycle in the streets of Amsterdam and stabbed to death by an Islamist. And he was, Theo van Gogh was shouting, "Can't we talk? Can't we talk about it?" Appalling last words. And recently, a lady opera composer looked at that old interview, which was filmed, of course, and has composed an opera of the interview. And we think that's very exciting.
Have you been to the dress rehearsals?
No, that's in June, I think.
So you've not seen the depictions of yourselves?
No, I don't know who's singing for us, yeah. There are obviously 3 opera singers. Yeah.
There are 3 singers and a choir, and choir boys behind it.
Great.
But it's quite exciting.
Very
to sing
exciting.
a whole opera based on an interview. Right.
We've got 10 minutes, which I can happily hijack Gilbert and George for another 10 minutes, but there's opportunities, questions from the floor. Do you mind just putting your hand up and then we get a microphone to you? Yeah, there's a gentleman here, and then we'll take questions from up there. Yeah.
Hello. How do you handle criticism?
No, we're quite used to it.
One of our first sculptures was it was a magazine sculpture. It was called George the Cunt and Gilbert the Shit. And that's a preemptive strike because we said it before anyone else, right? No, we think it's right. In a way, you have to be kind because they have very wretched careers. And once they resign or once they're sacked, they're finished forever, right?
The problem is that we have so many names, nobody would know those names. They're all finished. Artists are not finished, they all live on, but art crazy just are forgotten. Even the most famous one, like Brian Sewell, nobody would remember it's all finished. And we feel, doesn't matter what they write, we would never change, because we cannot change, because they criticize us. We have to do what we have to do. Doesn't matter what they say about us. And it's fantastic because if you don't have criticism, you are what are you? A boring artist, probably? Yes.
Do you think you get more negative criticism than positive, or it's about 50-50?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
We have piles like that of reviews.
Every show I've ever been involved in with your scene, you always get loads and loads of coverage. And a lot of it is positive, but there are negative ones.
Yes, I'm sure.
Oh, very negative.
It's a very good question. Do you
Especially when we did the banners, no? I think we had more anti-review for the little show that we had 2 years ago at Bermondsey for the banners than ever.
It's only if you have something truthful that it attracts attention like that. If it's just a very nice small painting with some violets in a small vase, no one will review it. Yeah? No one.
Do you want some kind of visceral provocation?
No, we didn't do it. We didn't do it for that. They do it. We don't.
We are campaigning artists. We call ourselves. No? That's what we do. We are campaigning, and we will have criticism.
It's part of the story. No? It's part of the story of Hollywood. Yeah.
Gentleman there. Thank you.
Hello, hi. I really enjoyed this conversation tonight, and I was just going to ask, do you feel that, do you identify a specific work of art that you feel has defined your practice?
Speak up a bit.
I didn't hear you.
Is there a specific work of art that has defined your practice?
So did you?
Of ours, you mean?
Yes.
One of our works?
Yes. It's about whether there's a specific work, or maybe a body of work, but a specific work that has defined your practice. Whether I suppose it's about turning points, maybe, but one
I think
in
the singing sculpture was it.
It was
That's
the
it.
singing sculpture that launched us into
Yes.
the art world.
And that is still there all the time, the living sculpture.
Even all of our pictures are actually pictures made by sculptors. They're not pictures made by picture makers. So it is the living sculpture that is the essence
It's
of
the living sculpture
of the
speaking.
thoughts, the feelings, the hopes, the dreads, is a sculpture. It's all a sculpture. Yeah.
Spitting on the walls, that's it.
Do you ever destroy work? Do you ever make
No,
work and think, no,
not
that's...
once.
Because it never gets to that point. You wouldn't
No,
go...
no, we
why
believe in
why
what
would
we
we do that? They're only. Why should we not trust something that comes out of ourselves? Yeah? It's just if you're a poet, it's the poet that came out that day. Yeah? If you do another one, it would be a different one.
No, we believe in ourselves.
It's like if
We
you
always did.
whatever.
More and more, we believe in ourselves.
Just along there, yeah. Just put... Yeah, there's a... Do you want to put your hand up and then the microphone can come? Or have I not seen... Is there someone along that row there?
Maybe not.
Oh, they've now lost it. There's a woman here and then another woman up there. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
You said if you were a country, you'd be Thailand. I'd like to know why.
Country bumpkins.
No,
you
we
If you were
turn
a
to Thailand.
country,
You said if you were a country, you would be Thailand.
Because,
Why?
because
Because that's where we first learned how to misbehave. When we were students, we were poor students, and we come from a lower class background, and we didn't want to be like all the middle class students who were smoking dope and having lots of sex and parties and
Masturbating under
things.
their caftans.
We were scared that we wouldn't be able to succeed in life, so we were very, very, very well behaved. And then we were invited to exhibit in Australia, to take the singing sculpture to Sydney and to Melbourne by a gentleman called John Calder, who did art projects for Australia. And we went to Australia, we had enormous success with the singing sculpture, we showed the general jungle, and he said, I'm very pleased with that, I want to give you a small present. And this is tickets for 1 week at the Oriental Hotel in Bangkok. And the rest is history.
Now, I've got the final question. Is anyone... Before I ask it, I did promise an extract from... Well, you can describe what the fuckology is, but you're compiling this, I suppose, research document. But you're also looking to compile another one to balance it out. But do you want to explain, how did the fuckology come about? And what exactly
We
is it?
created the fuckosophy.
Fuckosophy, sorry,
Yeah.
apologies. Sorry, that's my one.
Which is
fuckology.
very simple, because everyone knows what a philosopher is. You might have 1 or 2 books in your house. But you know where the police station is, and the hospital, and the school, and where to buy a bottle of milk. But there's no philosopher in the community that way. Yeah? And we felt that we should, as believers in art for all, we do works of art that can reach people with different educational backgrounds and different cultural ways, that we should try to compose a philosophy that would be able to reach almost anyone, whatever their walk in life or education. And it had to be, of course, a fuckosophy. It has 4,000, it's about to come up to 4,000 points. And we will show it for the first time as a wall at White Cube when we show the next.
Yep.
We did an extract in Hobart and in...
Serpentine, we did it all over in some way. But if you want, we can give you 1 page of
Yes,
4,000
we'd love that.
pages.
Just 1 page.
I need my glasses, George.
Yep. Got, fucked, and fucked.
Afternoon fucking.
Fuckeridge.
They are fuckers.
Fucking Sussex.
Regimental fucking.
Fuckton Chapel.
Wanker fucker.
Fuckers Estate.
Don't fuck up.
Fuckers Wharf.
Onward Christian fuckers.
Fuck at Shag Point.
Really beautiful fucker.
Fuckers Drift.
Unpleasant fucking.
Fucking Decent.
The fuck diaries.
Fucker swapping.
A fucker to be.
Cocky fucker.
Fucking in the North Korea.
Country fuckers.
Fucking special.
Holy fuck.
Fuck the shit out of them.
A couple of fuckers.
Fucked once.
Judge fuck.
Fuckers have feelings too.
Diddy fuck.
Fuck, fuck, hooray.
Don't stop fucking.
Very well, fucker.
Not a fucking chance.
Fuck lodge.
Onward the fuckers.
Fuck you all.
Fucks on demand.
Much fucking.
Fucker beloved.
Cock, fuck, cunt.
Fucking is good.
We're all fucking fuckers.
Fuckers view.
Just fuck along with it.
Fucking ladies.
All fuckers.
French kiss fuck.
Get fucking ready.
Fucks wood.
What a friend we have in fucker.
Fucking homo fucker.
The fucking days.
Fucking after dark.
Don't fuck me.
Fucking on the Thames estuary.
The best of fucking.
Timely fuck.
Fuck Middlesex.
It's a fucking fuck up.
Fuck them.
Take it and be fucked.
Fuck and Utah.
You are fucking right.
Fuck fruit.
Rupert the fucker.
Fuckers beyond all.
Boys brigade fucker.
Fuck it.
Head fucker.
Fuckers apply within.
The fucker.
Fuck the UDI.
Real bad fucker.
Fucker of feeling.
Pissed lick fucking.
Unfucked.
Fuck orthodoxy.
Truly fucker.
Fucker me loves.
Hot fucking fucker.
Fuck the now.
Metrosexual fucker.
Fucker retired.
All the fuck.
Fashionable fucker.
When you fuck.
Fucking, the Christian approach.
Girl fuck.
Fuckers field.
No fucking good.
Fuck on tap.
Unfuckable. That's what you are.
Fuck wanted.
Some fucking band.
Unloved and unfucked.
Fucked out.
The Highland fuck.
Fucking. Volunteers wanted.
The late fucker.
Fucking joy.
Ever been fucking fucked?
Fucking. 1939 to 1945.
Missed fuck.
Fucking in the out of doors.
I fuck a fucker.
Fucking on radio.
Master fucking.
Fucking under the Romans.
Them's fucked.
Fucker through the pearly gates.
Perchance to fuck.
Fucking end it.
Ethical fuckers.
They are not fucking up to it.
Fuck sexy.
Mothering fucking Sunday.
Fuck pod.
History of fucking.
Fuck familiar.
He got fucked.
Fuck it.
We will fuck you.
Fuck, fuck, fuck.
Me no fuck.
Fuckers on parade.
Fuck hug a fucker.
And there.
Sorry,
Do you think they can follow it?
yeah, I think so. That was before the watershed. I do also want to apologise to our poor signer, whose hands are going to just do fucking brilliant job there. Brilliant job, mate. So every one of those was an overheard phrase. It's a fan phrase.
No.
Invented.
Maybe a few were overheard. Yeah.
But they're all made up by you.
Yeah.
They're all made up or thought or felt or whatever. Yeah.
But now we do the
they're
new
all things
one.
that exist.
The godology.
The godology will probably be also 4,000 points. Yeah.
All
That's
based.
very
One
exciting.
evening we realized there is no God. That's it. That's how we started.
Okay. We'll save that for another conversation, because now you've joined the Academy, that could make an evening performance in and of itself. We are an Academy. We educate our students at the Academy. I once had the privilege of interviewing you in front of an art school audience in Athens, as well as with a public audience. And I asked you about 15 years ago if you had some advice for the students. You were very good in your advice. So I'm going to ask you to end this evening whether you still believe in the same advice or whether you have different advice for young artists who are learning their trade. What would your career advice be to the young artists who may be in this audience from the Royal Academy schools?
No, we haven't changed our advice because we feel very much for art students. And we remember being art students and wondering how it could be to be an artist and how special that would feel and how a drawing goes suddenly right in some special way. And inspirational, happy feeling to be an art student. And we always say that the art student should just remember tomorrow when they wake up, don't get up, just sit on the edge of the bed. Don't open your eyes and just think, what do I want to say to the world today? And don't open your eyes and don't go and do anything until you've decided that. Whether you use a brush or a typewriter, doesn't matter. Just what do I want to say to the world today? And the only other piece of advice we have for them is...
Fuck the teachers.
Which is great note on which to end. Gilbert George, as always, thank you.